Yes. Coming to the clinical presentation, today we'll talk about how a woman comes with the symptoms if she's having the infection of tuberculosis of genital tract. Women or a girl. Now, 10 to 11% of the cases may remain asymptomatic. So, she won't get any symptom, she may even not come to you. So, most of the time these cases are detected when examining for infertility. So, no symptom at all. Most common symptom, 80% of the female comes with the infertility. If they want for treatment for infertility, then it is detected while performing a pelvic examination that there is a cause of tuberculosis. Next, infertility is attributed why it is occurring. It is due to tubal damage, ovarian damage, endometrial adhesions, Asherman syndromes. This is the reason. Because of fold damage, there may be difficulty in zygote formation and transfer. And due to this lumen narrowing as well as damage to the fallopian tube, this infertility, even if a woman got treated for this, so after treatment still residual scarring is there, then she may also give you the treatment of ectopic pregnancy, which is very common after treatment. So next important, ectopic pregnancy, but that is considered later after treatment. Next, then is the menstrual disorders. Most of the women may get the normal cycles also. So 50% women comes with the menstrual disorders. Here in India, oligomenorrhea, hypomenorrhea, which is followed by amenorrhea. In India, this is very common presentation. Why? Because there is a higher association of pulmonary tuberculosis. Next, there may be menorrhagia, metrorrhagia, there may be even dysmenorrhea, that is painful menstruation due to secondary dysmenorrhea is due to congestion. So menorrhagia, metrorrhagia is again due to congestion. This is due to pelvic irritabilities, inflammations. Now metrorrhagia most of the time due to cervical, vulval, vaginal ulcers. They may bleed intermittently, then it is considered metrorrhagia. Women may also come with postmenopausal bleeding if she is suffering from cervical, vulval ulcers, erosions. So postmenopausal bleeding should always be considered hand in hand with either, not always it's endometrial cancer, it may be due to tuberculous ulcers. Now female young girls who are in a puberty period, if they are suffering from menorrhagia, excessive bleeding, 4% cases only reports in this, but puberty menorrhagia is not always a hormonal, rarely it may be due to tuberculosis. She may present with the mass in her abdomen. So a virgin girl, abdominal mass is another important clinical presentation. Abdominal mass, how it forms? It is due to lump in the adnexy, uterus and adnexy together infected. Due to adhesions, the mass is felt. So in virginal girl, if abdominal mass is there, most of the time it is due to tuberculosis of genital tract. So abdominal mass may be due to encysted ascites, may be due to intestinal loops which are smothered, adhesions. So this is all reason why a woman comes with the lump, that is abdominal mass. Now most important is abdominal pain. It may be acute due to rupture of TO mass, tubo-ovarian mass. If it ruptures, then there may be acute pain, and there may be pain again premenstrually. It is increased. Sometimes this pain is menstrual pain is also aggravated premenstrually, and it may be during menses. Women may experience coital difficulties, painful, that is dyspareunia, due to again damage of, and again cul-de-sac tubo-ovarian mass and cul-de-sac mass due to tuberculosis. So coitus will be difficult. Then there may be chronic pelvic pain. This may be vague, this may be constant, but chronic pelvic pain is also attributed to abdominal masses. Now, vaginal discharge is another important thing. Women may come with the leukorrhea, which may be pseudo-purulent or pseudo-sanguineous. Again, ulcers may cause sanguineous blood mixed discharge. So, leukorrhea, constant discharge is another important finding. Sometimes she may have a bleeding per vagina. We have discussed already in cases of cervical or vulval irritations and ulcerations. This is a thing, an ectopic pregnancy we have discussed already. So these are the major symptoms. With this constitutional symptoms like malaise, fever, low-grade fever sometimes, then sweating or weight loss, anorexia. These are very common with this associated pulmonary tuberculosis or past history of it. So now we will see signs. Coming to the signs, sometimes you may find even no sign in the patient, not at all. Now, if signs are present, then generally what signs you can get? There is surrounding organ if it is involved. In lower genital tract also, there may be in lymph nodes enlargement of the surrounding inguinal and long mesentery. Per abdomen examination, abdominal masses are ruled out by doughy filling. We can feel like a dough. Swelling is felt like a dough, so doughy filling is a confirmative of mass in the abdomen. It also diagnosed tuberculous peritonitis. So per abdomen you should examine without fail. Per vaginal as well as bimanual examination, both तीनों examinations are important, all the three. Then per vaginal, there may be unusual findings sometime of hypertrophic cervix, elongation of cervix. There may be vulval, vaginal or cervical ulcers. This is seen in lower tuberculous infections of the vulva and vagina. Then bimanual examination is most important one. Sometimes uterus is felt normal, but most of the time due to pyometra, uterus size will be enlarged. Then surrounding adnexal mass, through the fornix, posterolateral fornix, we can get the tenderness, swelling of the adnexal mass, even a tubo-ovarian mass. Sometimes through that fornix only, if you examine, you will find fullness and tenderness in the pouch of Douglas. Pouch of Douglas, tuberculous abscess, tuberculous conditions, if they are there, there may be tenderness and pain. Even small nodules can be examined, can be felt through the pouch of Douglas. These are of course tender. There may be unusually sometime labial swelling. We should not think it is inflammatory or just an allergic or some other thing, but should always have a suspicion. In postmenopausal women, postmenopausal bleeding, search for local examination of ulcer, hypertrophy or swelling. Then fistulas. Following the surgery, any surgery may lead to fistulas if there is associated TB of genital tract. Yes. How will you investigate? So coming to the investigation, complete blood count. Basically, this is very important. Complete blood count shows the variations in leukocytes, in which differential leukocytes shows chronic infection and lymphocytosis. So marked lymphocytosis is important. ESR, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, is always high, but it is a non-specific investigation in blood. Next important is Montauk test. So Montauk test is negative. If it is found negative, then it excludes tuberculosis, but if it is found positive, it indicates contact with the tuberculous bacilli in past. So 90% of the cases, if they are positive, then 90% of cases will consider any time there is contact in the past with the Mycobacterium bacilli. Then endometrial histology and PCR test. This is important. Endometrial histology means endometrial tissue is obtained by dilatation and curettage, or it can be obtained by DNC, or dilatation and curettage, or it can be also obtained by hysteroscopy. Now, if this tissue is obtained, then it is examined under microscope. What is the best time to obtain the sample? It is in the late premenstrual phase. Late premenstrual phase, just before the menstruation, these tubercles are prominently seen in the endometrium if it is damaged or stirred with the tubercle. Why? Because these are seen very at the superficial layer of the uterus. Suppose this is uterus, it is seen very superficially. So these are easily shed off if menstruation begins. That is the reason why it is generally late premenstrual phase. That is important to see the change, pathological change. Next is PCR. This is a polymerase chain reaction. It is very sensitive, very specific and very good method to see the multiple chain colonies are formed. Now this is useful to detect the mycobacterial DNA. It is report comes within 24 hours, so it becomes an important one. In few cases, 8%, in few of this, it may be negative sometimes. Still, we can rely on endometrial histology and PCR. Next important is bacterial examination. You all know we go for Zillen-Nielsen, that is acid-fast staining. So acid-fast staining is done of what? Of endometrial tissue. If staining is done, it can give the diagnosis of the bacteria, but still sometimes it is not found always correct. So this is bacteriological examination which may help us simultaneously. If 3 to 4 findings are positive, then we can think, okay, it is due to with a very proper clinical history, past history of disease, family history of female genital tract or any other tuberculosis, and with the such diagnostic tools, investigations, you may come to the proper diagnosis. Moreover, some imaging techniques, that is sonography. After sonography, we'll always pick up the abdominal mass, encysted mass. So any mass anywhere in the female pelvic, abdominal sonography will guide you to the fluids or pus, everything. Pyometra, pyosalpinx, like that. ELISA is a sensitive test. This can be done in the to know the IgG and IgM. Next, we can also go for hysteroscopy. We can obtain the report of hysteroscopical examination, which will pick up the synechias in the fallopian tube or endometrium, as well as obliteration of the uterine cavity and ulcer if they are. Rarely ulcers are also picked up by hysteroscopy. Next important investigation is laparoscopy, directly visualizing the pelvis through laparoscope. This can diagnose tuberculous lesions, as well as we have just seen the thickened pipe of the fallopian tube which becomes very rigid. Then with the lesions, rigidity and swelling of the tube, with this it can also diagnose the TO mass, then pyosalpinx, pyometra, hydrosalpinx. So almost all the pathologies and the site of pathologies can be visualized properly by laparoscopical examination. Next, chest X-ray can be advised to know the primary site of the lesion. Sometimes it is obliterated, not seen, it is, but most of the time if it is an association, we can visualize it. We can get the report properly. Then note is sometimes HSG is also advisable. It is advised in which condition, suppose endometrial biopsy is not revealing proper diagnosis, and hysterosalpingography, we know this usually be performed in the female infertility investigations. If a woman is not conceiving, and if we consider ovulation is normal, if we have seen the ovulation test, and tubal damage if we suspect, then HSG is very important tool to diagnose about the patency, ductal patency of the fallopian tube, as well as cavity of uterus and everything. Now this also side by side diagnose any damage in the genital damage or endometrial or tubal. This find out the tubal tuberculosis where it is done into where biopsy fails, we have already discussed. It diagnose rigidity of the fallopian tube, beading and variation, beaded appearance, as well as variation in the filling defect. Suppose this is a HSG fallopian tube. If the dye, radiopaque dye, is injected from the cervix, vulva, vagina, it completely fills up the dye. If it is patent, if the tube and uterus is patent, the dye completely moves from here and gets spilled off from the fimbria into the peritoneal cavity. If it is not patent, then it shows block. This is the thing about hysterosalpingography. But if it is cavity is not proper, if it is obliterated, then it will show the filling defect, and synechia's filling defect as well as some calcifications can also be picked up. Shows also fibrosis. So HSG is very important tool if biopsy is not giving you proper report. Again, it can diagnose the enlargement of the ampullary and this corneal end in cases of pyosalpinx, hydrosalpinx. This tobacco pouch appearance can also be diagnosed properly by HSG. So these are the investigations modalities, and then treatment. Of course, medical treatment, whatever pathy you are preferring, you can get the treatment. But we have to diagnose before that differentially. So differential diagnosis. Coming to the differential diagnosis, we get suspicion of lot of diseases when we see the such history and when we do the examinations. But you can always keep in mind there's ovarian cyst, broad ligament cyst, ovarian cyst, if it is fixed, we should always have a suspicion of tuberculosis of genital tract, because there may be ovarian cyst, tubo-ovarian mass, so this may mimic like same symptom, so rule out with this. Then pelvic inflammatory disease. Here you will find acute symptoms, fever, malaise. Fitz-Hugh-Curtis syndrome is common in both, but on examination we will find bacteriological or sexually transmitted infection, positive and will not find any want to test positive or any HSG or endometrial biopsy report showing tuberculosis or granuloma formation. So PID can be very properly ruled out, but symptomatology is very same of PID and chronic PID, not so differences there. Then ectopic pregnancy, this is found even if after treatment also. The mass in the abdomen and urine pregnancy test positive, which is weekly positive rather, and symptoms of amenorrhea or vague pelvic pain, this will guide you whether it is a tuberculosis, but on sonography and examination per vagina we can diagnose ectopic pregnancy. Again, cervical ulcers, vulval ulcers, most of the time bleeding per vagina, dyspareunia, debility, we can have a confusion with CA cervix, but proper biopsy, tissue pathology, histopathological studies will reveal any metaplastic changes. Again, pregnancy, abdominal mass. If abdominal mass is there, we can also find mass in abdomen in pregnancy, but we will again rule out by UPT and USG, and symptoms of nausea, vomiting, which may mimic same, but we can rule out properly by examination and all. Lastly, the puberty, menorrhagia and postmenopausal bleeding. Puberty, menorrhagia, few of the girls may come with the mass in the abdomen, but normally if it is due to dysfunctional uterine bleeding, we will not get any pathology to exclude. So we can come to the diagnosis whether it is due to tuberculosis or any hormonal disorder. Similarly, postmenopausal bleeding, not always cancer, but we should always also think for tuberculosis or genital tract. Various other causes are to be excluded. For postmenopausal bleeding, there are lot of causes, from atrophic vaginitis to cancer. So we will have to take the history properly, do the examination, investigate, and then prescribe the treatment. After the treatment, again we can go for repeat dilatation and curettage, examination of endometrial biopsy to find out any proper healthy changes in the mucosal levels of the genital tract. So friends, I think I have given you most important central core and basic idea. I hope you will study hard, and if you have any queries you can always ask.